Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our HR user group. Today is a special presentation specific to our ServiceNow product. And for our agenda, I'm going to introduce Kate in a few minutes. She's going to speak about the tool. Brian's going to go over the portal, and then I will talk about how this all relates to HR, payroll, and benefit service requests. We will then launch into a demo, and we'll have time for questions at the end. If you have a burning question, feel free to type it in the chat box. We are recording this so that we will be able to save it for posterity. So I'm going to start by handing this off to Kate Hash, who is the ITS Chief of Staff.
All right, give us a second for some musical chairs. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. As Ann mentioned, I'm the ITS Chief of Staff. I'm also wearing the interim hat of Assistant Vice Chancellor for User Support and Engagement, and that's really where my oversight of this project comes from. It's wearing that hat. So some of you on this webinar, I suspect, have some knowledge of ServiceNow, but for many of you, it's probably just something you've maybe heard about. So I just want to talk really briefly before I hand it off to Brian to actually show you some stuff about what this project is and what we're actually doing. You can't talk about ServiceNow without talking about Remedy, which is the current tool that we use that's over 20 years old, and it's what we're replacing because it's really old. ServiceNow is going to introduce a lot of new functionality for us and some things that Remedy simply can't offer, particularly as you start thinking about workflows and automation and real-time metrics and doing just lots of more innovative business sort of things with how we provide our service and support to campus. And ServiceNow is really going to help us get there. We have some big picture goals and some immediate goals for this project. And big picture wise for our end users, so that's many of you on this webinar today, you are the people initiating requests for service or requests for support. We want you all to have a radically better user experience. And I know that's kind of a visionary sort of goal, but that really is the guiding principle that when our project team meets, we talk about a lot, because we want to make it easier for people to get assistance when they need it, to request services, and to also have transparency into where their requests are in the process. And ServiceNow is going to give us all of that. We also want, for us being service fulfillers and support providers, we want a more robust industry standards system. Again, we want to be able to do all those things like workflows and automation that we simply can't do with our current tool. And the immediate goal and the real scope of this project currently is decommissioning Remedy RFS. This is that piece of Remedy where if you go to help.unc.edu now and you submit a ticket or you call the Business Systems Help Desk, that's all going through Remedy, and we want to replace that. This primarily impacts IT, but it also hits other functions as well. So not everyone who's in IT on this campus uses Remedy, and not everyone in Remedy is from IT. And so HR is the perfect example, as with finance and payroll, of folks outside of sort of the IT ecosystem that use Remedy currently. And so there will be impact to these groups as well. So the project from start to finish being a loose term, because really that just means go live, it's only been 5 months. This has been a really different project approach for us and a bit of a fun learning experience and a challenge for us as well. Because of the really tight timeline, we've required significant collaboration from people across campus. Our work streams that we have for this project are populated by people from all different groups, some people who don't even currently use Remedy, and that intense team involvement has been critical to our progress thus far, as has the limited scope of just replacing Remedy RFS. We are really focused on progress and not perfection. And the plan is to go live and to constantly iterate on the platform. One of the great things about ServiceNow is it makes it really easy for us to add new services, to make small enhancements, to make little changes on a really quick timeline. We will not be on a 6 to 12 month development timeline here. It will be if someone comes to us with a new service idea and we workshop it and we go through the process and we test it, something could be live in as little as a month. And so it's just a really different way of thinking for us. So the current plan, the tentative go live date is July 30th. That is just 3 weeks from tomorrow. And we're doing lots of testing and training in the coming weeks, and that will tell us a lot about our go, no-go decision on this. We do have a backup date and we have other options, but we're looking pretty good for July 30th. And what that really means practically is that when you go to help.unc.edu on July 30th, you will actually be using ServiceNow. To sort of the blind eye, it will just look like we have redesigned the help website, that we've made it prettier, easier to use, but in reality, it will actually be all ServiceNow powering this website for us. There will be a soft launch on July 25th, and Anne, I don't know if you're going to mention this a little later, but the soft launch will be for the service providers, and what that means is that folks like us in IT, like Anne, will be going in there and just sort of messing around in the system and getting used to it a few days before we actually go live publicly. But what that means is if people are copying any tickets over from Remedy to ServiceNow, you may actually start to see notifications from ServiceNow prior to the 30th, and we don't want anyone to be caught off guard by that. For end user support, for you all, you really don't change any of your behaviors. You call 962-HELP for the Business Systems Help Desk, option 3. They're still going to be your primary point of entry. You can also always submit tickets as you always have online or chat with folks. The only thing that is fundamentally changing is the back end of the system and some of the ways that you're going to request service, which Anne will talk about. So with that overview of the project, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Brian, who's going to show you what it's actually going to look like.
Thanks, Kate. So as Kate said, this really is a collaborative project made up of units from all across campus. We wanted to ensure this was not an ITS project. It was not just an IT project. And I'm an example of that. I'm an IT manager with the School of Public Health, but I've been tasked with leading the training work stream campus-wide. The number one comment we've heard about ServiceNow from the start is, what does it look like? How do people reconcile phrases like a grand new user experience with a product they haven't seen? And so we want to give initiators a quick overview of what the product does for you. So here's help.unc.edu today. It's not particularly attractive. It's very IT focused. It even kind of looks IT, if you know what I mean. The knowledge desk is pretty limited, and there's a lot of expired knowledge in there. And there's a lot going on this page, right? You've got on-site resident support, you've got live chat, you've got an option for student employment, as well as all the social media buttons you could want. Part of moving to ServiceNow is moving to something we consider a modern design and something that we consider a responsive design. That is, it's going to work on mobile, smartphones, and tablets right out of the box the way you'd expect. So in the old help.unc.edu, once you logged in, you continued this experience of a very IT-centric looking page, not a lot of information available to you here, just tough to consume as an end user in the modern era. So this is the new help.unc.edu. Much more streamlined, much more slimmed down, and we support only a couple of actions directly from here. The first is we have this big how can we help you knowledge base. This contextual search will search the knowledge base, which is being edited, rewritten, and cleaned up as we speak for launch of this project. It'll also search outstanding records that have been opened for you or that you've opened on behalf of other people that match on those keywords. It'll match on actual catalog requestable items just by typing one or two simple words in a phrase. The main calls to action on this page, other than that center help bar, search bar, are our need to break records in ServiceNow down into two distinct things. In the remedy world, everything is a ticket. If something's broken, that's a ticket. If I want access to something I don't have, that's a ticket. If I want software ordered on my behalf, that's a ticket. In ServiceNow, these two worlds are clearly divided into what we call an incident. Something's broken. something does not work the way I expect it to, I'm seeing a behavior that's different than I did yesterday, and its partner, a service request. I want something I don't yet have. So you can see those two buttons on this page. And we're trying to be very clear with this language. We're also going to be iterating this language as we learn from our community about what the calls to action drive behavior-wise. When you click on the service request, I want something I don't have, you're taken to what looks like an actual catalog. And you're starting to see more of an online shopping kind of an experience. So you can see on this service request catalog page in the HR benefits and payroll category, I can select an item that says EPAR issues. I can ask for Connect Carolina self-service, HR systems access, payroll issues. Each of these have an individualized workflow and approval process already built into them. So no one has to guess where the next place to go to solve a problem is. One of the things that Mike Barker, our interim CIO, is fond of saying is that none of our clients should have to know our organizational structure to do their work. When you select one of these service request items, there's a form that's custom built to that item. So this is payroll. These are fields selected by the group that put this item together that try to limit the amount of information we collect and provide the end user with a great experience to actually submit the request. You simply fill out who the request is for, who the department is. If the user only has one department, that's done automatically. I happen to have a couple departments. What the payroll issue is, and then a brief description. Once you press request, that request is on its way and it's already moved to the right assignment group to be worked on. When you return to that service portal front page, you can also get a list of the open requests you have. And you can see information about them, such as how long ago they were ordered, what stage they're in, whether it's been updated with any kind of comment from the person actually fulfilling the request. So that's a brief overview of the service portal. I'm sure there'll be questions. Kate and I will give it a couple of seconds for any to roll in. We're also both freely available outside of this webinar to have email sent to us, and we'll get them answered.
Okay, no questions so far.
Great. We're also happy with no questions so far. Although it says Lori Harris raised her hand.
Lori Harris raised her hand. Well, we don't have a question. If Lori could type a question in the box, I'd be happy to read it out.
While she's doing that, Ann will switch over.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have a question?
Not as of yet.
All right.
I'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Kate and I will scoot.
Thank you, Kate and Brian. If there are any follow-up questions after they've left, I will take note of them, and I will be sure to hunt them down to get a response. Thank you both. Good luck. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, being recorded. When it is done, give us a little bit of time, but then we will put it up on the ccinfo.unc.edu page under the user information under HR payroll user group. So any of your colleagues who may have missed this and want to see any of it, it would be the place to go. So Brian used the term records. I still call them tickets. And there are two types of tickets, as he said, service requests and incidents. And the biggest difference is the incidents are all going to go to the IT service desk as the first point of entry into the system. So one of the downsides is somebody who picks up that ticket has to look for keywords, key information to be able to know where to route it directly. Whereas our service requests that we've written have been already know that they need to go to Business Systems Help Desk, the TIM support, whatever it is. That will make your ticket processing so much more streamlined. There's nothing more frustrating than to watch your ticket bounce from place to place to place because nobody knows what to do with it. So there are times and places for incidents, but generally an HR issue is going to fall under the service request category. As Brian also mentioned, searching. That main search bar will be your friend. There's also the ability to search by catalog and by categories, and I will demo that shortly. Brian showed you the main portal. That front search bar is a great place to start. On the bottom of this, there are 3. He talked about the something's broken or the incident and the service request. But on the left, there's also good information that ITS is sharing with anybody who goes to the portal. For example, if all of Connect Carolina was down, that would get posted there. If there was a large university-wide network outage, that would get posted. Of course, you wouldn't be able to see it, but there would be an outage posting. So that is a good place to go for quick information. When you're ready to request service, you would click that Request Service button. It will ask you to authenticate. You must provide your onion and your password. We're not allowing non-authenticators to request service. And when you do, it will bring up the list of categories. As you can see, hopefully it's not too small. The HR benefits payroll has 6 sub-items or 6 items under that category. And if you were to select it, oh, and again, just to point out, you could search up at the top there, or you can click on the HR benefits payroll, which is a link, and it will show you those items. You could also browse by category. That's going to show you your popular items. And I don't know, it's not your popular items, it's the university's popular items. So which type of requests and incidents are coming in the most? And that is a constantly changing thing, so it will be different every time you come in, potentially. If I did click the HR benefits and payroll category, you would see that those 6 different types of service requests are available to launch a service request form. The font for the title is larger than the space on the screen. So you see Connect Carolina ... The sentence below should help you make the distinction between what each of these are. So there are 6, currently there are 6 forms, but they can do multiple things. And I want to just step back and talk about that a little bit. Our hope at Go Live was going to be to have a single form for every type of thing you needed to do. However, as part of this compressed implementation schedule, we were limited to 5 or 6 forms. So we made them multifunctional, which is great. It gave us lots of, covered all of our needs, but there are lots of places where you can request service and it may not be clear which of the 6 to pick. As a result, I made a little cheat sheet. Where's my service request? So I will get somebody to make a prettier version of this that we can send out electronically. But literally, I made this afternoon just before this meeting so that you'd have a little something to refer to. And this would be a great temporary page to take a screenshot of. So those are the 6 forms. And within each form type, what are the things you can request? And you're going to get to see that in action. Ready for a demo? Do we have any questions?
We do have quite a few. If you want to take a little break.
Okay.
Here. First of all, Teresa said yay and on your matrix. So
thank you, Teresa.
She was very excited about it. So Lori, when she raised her hand, she had a question. So it was kind of like for Brian, but I guess you maybe answer it. So you mentioned being able to search for your requests. Is there a way to just access seeing all your open, close requests as there is now? Absolutely.
The default is open. When you're searching for requests, you can change it to include closed.
Okay, this one is from Anonymous, so I don't know. It says, will there be an, in quotes, other selection/option for the new remedy tickets?
Oh, almost all of our remedy tickets have an other option. And the intention there is that it didn't make this top 50 list, but it's something out there. You use other, just describe it as much detail as you can give to make it make sense.
Okay, Laura's got another question. Will users be able to update their own requests after they've been submitted? And can they include an attachment?
So that's a great question. I'm going to separate out incident from service request. With an incident, you can do an update, and I'll actually demo that. You also can add an attachment and remove it. For service requests, the same would be true about the attachment, but there is no way to do an update to a service request once it has been submitted that I am aware. I do have that listed as a question to follow up with our service partner, but at the moment I am not aware of a way to do that.
Okay, last one, Lori again. Will it still be possible to open a request on behalf of someone else?
So the answer is yes, and in fact there are some cases where that is our preferred method. For example, one of the forms is self-service related. So let's say that you have an employee who comes to you and says, I'm having trouble viewing my paycheck. You should open the ticket for them, because unless you want to play the go-between, we're going to ask that person, have you turned off pop-up blockers? Did you try this? What browser are you using? We would much rather deal directly with the person. If for whatever reason you couldn't direct them to enter a ticket on their own behalf, you could certainly do it for them, and I will demonstrate that as well. Thank you for that question. Okay,
that is it for now.
Woof, all right. How do I hop out of this to go to the demo? Okay. And I'm going to go to, just give me a moment to log in. Thank you. Oops. Oh, shoot. All right, I clearly got that wrong. Let me get the right portal address is. Sorry for that. I should have set this up ahead of time. Let me see. Dev.service-now. I missed the dash. All right, we're back in business. This is the portal. This is our dev environment, so hopefully nothing will break or change while we're in the middle of it. But this is when you type that unc.edu, help.unc.edu, this is where you would land. I'm going to start by doing an example of something's broken, an incident, and then we're going to move into service requests. So I'm going to click the something's broken. It's going to show me the two varieties. The what can't find what you need will create a service request, but the example I'm going to use is one that is truly an incident. So I'm going to click on create incident. If I wanted to, so this is not one you can do on behalf of somebody else. It is doing it for me. Actually, right now I am Chris Minter, because your credentials apparently were active on this computer. So I happen to think I'm a cuter Chris Minter than Chris is, but yes. Anyway, so because it knows who I am, because this laptop was authenticated, it knows what department I'm in. And in his case, it's the ITS EA Connect Carolina group. You as the submitter can choose how urgent do you feel this incident is. And I'm going to use the example of I spilled coffee on my keyboard. And so for me, I think this is incredibly high. This, with some other pieces of information, is going to dictate the priority, but for the moment, I'm telling the person who's going to pick up my ticket how important it is to me. I'm going to give it a description. The more information you give, the better off the person serving you can do. I spilled coffee on my keyboard, and I think I may need a new one for repair. And I'm going to press submit. I could have added an attachment at the bottom of the page. I'll show that on service requests. And now it shows that this is what I have put into my ticket. You will notice over here the priority became a moderate. That is the default that all of your incidences will start as. If you started it as a high, it could go lower. And when the person who's working your ticket picks it up, they have the ability to influence that priority. The question was asked, can I update it? Sure. For an incident, I can come right back in and type a message. Oh no, now there is smoke coming, sorry, by bad typing, coming from the keyboard. Help. And I can add that to my ticket. So if somebody had picked up the ticket, they would then get that update via email so that they would know that the ticket has been updated. Likewise, they can ask you a question like, have you unplugged it? And things like that. So you can have a dialogue back and forth. The adding of an attachment is down here at the bottom. For incidents, there's a drop and drag, or you can use the paperclip that will bring up any standard browser type of window to allow you to select the file that you want to upload. So I have now submitted an incident, a ticket, and if you wanted, you could make note of that number, although you may not need to, because at any point, I can go look at my requests. And, oh yes, I've done this keyboard problem twice, apparently. So, all right. Any questions on an incident?
We do have some other questions, but they weren't.
Okay, so we'll save those for, we'll come back to them, or are they related?
Well, not really.
Okay, we will come back to the questions. Keep them coming. Thank you. So in the meantime, I'm going to go back to services, and I have a couple of ways I can do that. I could click the well or the logo, and that would bring me back to the main portal page, or I can go right to the services page. And the services page brings me to those categories that we know. It shows me my current requests, but I want to go right to the HR payroll benefits so that I see the 6. We've lost 1. There should be 6 things there. Well, that's interesting. Well, we'll see how far along we get. So I'm going to start with an example where I want to submit a data change, Connect Carolina data change. So I click that box. I have some descriptive information up at the top, including a link to the Mass Supervisor Update form if I wanted to use that. Since I'm doing this as me, I'm going to change this to me. So this was the example of, can you do this on behalf of somebody else? I could. It will know my department. If you have somebody like a faculty member who works in 3 different departments, you would want to pick the department for which the service request makes sense. You know, they work at School of Education and School of Medicine, but the laptop problem was at School of Medicine, then that would be the one that they would select. It's really about finding the right person in the right capacity. EPAR number, at the moment, it is not a required field. Just like in Connect Carolina, where we have the asterisk to indicate a field is required, if there is no asterisk, it is not required. There are, however, certain types of these data changes that if you select, the EPAR number will become a required field. When for what type, so if we went back to that matrix picture, you would see that all of these types are ones that I could select in order to submit a request for a data change. And I'm going to use the example of a hire data change. You'll notice now that the hire date change, not hire data, sorry. You'll notice now that the EPAR number field has become required. So there's no validation. Please copy and paste so you don't make typos because we need the right values. And the additional information, I can't stress this enough. This is where you need to tell us everything possible to make your ticket workable. So if I wanted to say, and as I'll use an example, Harry Potter was hired 7/1. However, his international travel plans have gone awry. He won't be in the country until next week. Hire date needs to be 7/15. That seems like a good amount of information. One key piece missing, you didn't give me the PID. PID is 730-123-456. So this ticket, when I submit it, is going to route directly to the Business Systems Help Desk. If I had not put the PID there, they're going to reach out to you to confirm that they've got the right Harry Potter. If you were missing an explanation, if they forward it to us, we're going to forward it back to you, ask you back to them for them to ask you for an explanation. We don't just change them for no reason. If I needed to add an attachment, I could do that here. And as far as I know, there are no limitations on the type of attachments. I haven't found any yet anyway. And when I'm ready, I'm going to click the equivalent of save, which is request. If there were an error message, it would appear at the top of the page. When it's done, it brings you to a confirmation page. And here I'm given my request number or my ticket number. So if you remember when we did the incident, it was an INC number. An REQ number tells me it was a service request. There's very little information here about what this is, other than to tell you it has received approval, and all of our tickets at Go Live will have approval. We are not requiring an approval to submit a request for service. And then the little blue circle, if you hover over it, will tell you where it is. So this says fulfillment waiting for catalog task, work request, Business Systems Help Desk, and it's in progress. When this moves on, if it moves to another level, you'd get another circle with the status. In the end, you should get to a checkbox that says it's complete. Now, you may be looking at this page and saying, order name, delivery date, this doesn't make any sense at all. Think of service as an order. We just happen to have no prices, no quantities, no totals. This is delivered ServiceNow service request. The intention is that someday we could charge for services. You could do your procurement here. The functionality is there, we're just not using it at Go Live. So that was an example of submitting a service request. Any pertinent questions?
The service requests, well, let's see. We got a bunch of them here. I need to go out of order. Yeah, let me ask you a couple of these other ones.
Okay.
I'm going to lose my spot. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I got two threads going. So a question came in. I'd like to ask why non-authenticators, in quotes, can't use the system. I sometimes have people from outside UNC who need to access Sakai, for example, and the Sakai folks don't like me to be the go-between because it involves passwords.
So for service requests, it is a requirement that you must be have LDAP. I don't know for incidents whether that is true or not. One of the things that there will be proprietary information that is behind that onion authentication that we don't want to expose to the world.
Okay. Next question is, can I view all tickets submitted by my department/group?
If you are a fulfiller, the answer would be yes, but no. An individual submitter can view their own. There is no concept of security. It's much more of an all or nothing. So you can see your own, but you can't see everybody else's unless you're a fulfiller.
Okay, Lori has a suggestion. She says, the matrix is terrific, exclamation point. It would be even better if this were a live page on the site and you updated it continuously after the go live as you saw what mistakes people were making and added things to the matrix.
That is an excellent suggestion, Teresa. We will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, so Michael's asking, just confirming, will my current open ticket be copied into ServiceNow?
So we can continue to use Remedy to work open tickets until we would need to move it to another group. So if it were something that came to the business analyst as an example, and it's something that we can fully complete without having to pass it to anyone else, then we won't have any need to move it over to ServiceNow. But let's say that this was an example of the hire date, and now I need to pass it to commitment accounting to update the hire date for their commitment accounting data. Because I would need to transfer it and I can't, I would need to close it in Remedy and create it in ServiceNow, which would indicate you would get a notification saying a ticket has been opened. I actually don't know what the language is, but something along those lines. And we would continue to work it from that point forward in ServiceNow. So that goes back to what Kate was talking about. We may start doing some of that on the 25th and, as sort of a playground for us to practice. And if you start getting those notifications, know that you'll get a Remedy close and you'll get a ServiceNow open. And because we want to cross-reference the numbers, more than likely you're going to see the ServiceNow request come through first, and then you'll see the Remedy close.
Okay, Lori's asking, you just showed how to select your department in a service request, but in the incident, it looked like a default, question mark. Can you select it in the incident as well? One of our chronic problems with Remedy is incident tickets getting routed wrong for people who have multiple department affiliations.
The answer is yes. The only reason that it showed that I changed it in service was because I changed from being Chris to myself. So the request, I had to change it from what it was of ITS to being workforce strategy. But yes, the two are related. The minute you change the person, then you can pick the department, or in cases where a person has multiple departments, you can choose it right at the get-go.
Okay, Teresa Help Desk says, and please remind users about sensitive info in work log.
Thank you, Teresa. Yes, please do not put sensitive information, social security numbers, dates of birth, anything like that in your tickets. Tickets are very open to fulfillers, so we do want to keep that. Don't attach copies of their passports or their birth certificates. If there is sensitive information that you need to share with somebody, make note of that, and we will certainly talk to you over the phone about it, and so forth. But yes, please do not attach things or put the text in the ticket that has sensitive data.
Okay, last one. Well, no, we got two more. Sorry, keep coming in. Laura's asking, are you able to do multiple attachments in the new system?
Absolutely. There is no limit to the number of attachments you can do. Go at it.
Okay, from Mark here, I noticed that the full names of several longer request categories were truncated in the category selection pane. Is it possible to list the full category names, perhaps by wrapping rather than truncating? So
unfortunately, that is not in our design. We're not allowed to make that change in the design way. So I'm assuming this is what you're talking about, that connect Carolina ... Tim ... so forth. That's why there's a sentence below. If you meant something else, please definitely re-ask your question, because I may have misunderstood it.
Okay, that is all the questions we have. Yes, that's it. Thank you for your response.
Okay, great.
So that's it so far.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to do another one. So this one, I'm going to pick the payroll issue. So in payroll, again, I've got some information at the top that you can use to figure out, are you using the right form? And what's really nice is there's a link to the payroll forms page as well. Welcome to use it. I did neglect to mention on the right-hand side of the form, you will see any data that is required up front is going to be highlighted in red. And the moment you fulfill that requirement, it will go away. So for example, it's asking, what is my payment issue? This is a drop-down. I can choose one of 4 things. I'm going to use the example of an overpayment. So now it's saying that the description is required, and in the same way that the hire date change, you want to describe it all. So Neville Longbottom 730-789-012 was not put on short work break for the summer. He has been overpaid from 5/17 through 6/30. Please start the overpayment process. So that gives a good information. We know who it is, we know what the problem is, and what the time frame is. If I were going for the gold star on that, I would add EPAR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 has been submitted, putting him on short work break, and he is aware of the situation. So that now payroll has a clue that this person will know, knows they've been overpaid, and we, the BAs, are going to wait to watch that EPAR executes, and once it does, then we can pass this ticket along to payroll. And I could add the EPAR number down here if I wanted as well. Oops, I made a typo. 6, 7. And if I had an attachment, which in the case of an overpayment, there's talk of that being a requirement. So I'm going to try to request it, and it says, no, you must attach the appropriate payroll form. So you would attach your overpayment document. Oops, I'm on some, well, do we have any documents here? Yes, we'll put that one there. And then I'll get rid of it. And I'm going to submit it successfully. The system is not smart enough to be able to actually figure out, did you attach the appropriate document? It just knows you had to attach a document. The business systems help desk will play that role to ensure that what you requested, the attachment actually supports. And to remove it, see that little X? I could just delete it. I could attach another one, but I'm going to go ahead and submit or request. Do we have any new questions?
Nope.
All right, I'm moving on while I can. So I've got another example of what I want to show you, which is needing help with an EPAR. So I can come back to my HR payroll benefits, EPAR issues. And this one is a little different in that if you look on the right-hand corner, you now have an extra thing, this add to cart. And the idea being that, let's say that you have to do 2 things for a person, but you have questions about them or you're not sure the order. You could submit 2 different requests, or 2 different items under one request. So first I'm going to change this to me because I want this to show up in my list later. So I'm going to start by saying that the first thing I want to do is, actually I'll use the example of, I have an employee who I need to do a lump sum and determination, and I'm not sure what effective dates to use. So you can use this to ask questions. This is, it could be that you're having a problem, you're getting an error message, or simply a question. So I'm going to start by doing a lump sum. My additional information, I need to pay someone for work completed in June, but terminated effective 7/1, what effective date do I use? And I can add this to the cart. If I click request, it will submit that as a standalone. But I want to make these two questions, because they are related, in one ticket. So I'm going to add it to my cart. At the top of the page, you now see that the cart has one item in it. So think about we're at Amazon shopping. I've put something in my shopping cart. Now I want to ask the question about change employment status. I need to terminate someone, but there is a lump sum payment to pay. Does the order matter? And I can add that to my cart. Now, hopefully this ticket would go to the business systems help desk, who would reach out to you and give you the answers to those questions. We didn't need to know who it was for or any of that, because it was more of a processing question. Sometimes we do get these types of questions where we do need to know who the person is, because our answer may differ depending on it. As an example, I would need to know, is this person a biweekly person or are they monthly? Because that would change my response. So now that I've got my cart, I want to submit these. So I click on my cart, and I can either view cart or proceed to checkout. They basically do the same thing, so it really doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to proceed to checkout. Now you notice that you can't tell the difference between which one was which. That's a limitation of how we set up these service requests. So if you rethought this and said, you know, I don't think I need to ask both questions, I can't tell you which one you're going to delete by hitting an X. I don't know that they always come in order. Haven't tested it well enough to know for sure. So you can choose to do them individually or use the cart. It's up to you. When you're ready, you check out. It will process them, empty your cart, and show you what's going on. The nice thing about a cart is it allows each item to proceed independent of the other. So if question 1 needed some other workflow or needed some more work, it could continue along while item number 2 was solved. The whole ticket will not close until all the items in that ticket are closed. So that's the cart, and I wanted to make sure I showed it to you because it is a little confusing. And I think probably not something you would think of in terms of UNC, but you are in fact requesting a service that could have prices and quantities and delivery dates. We're just not using that part of the functionality. Any questions?
We do have a couple here.
Okay.
Okay, so Mark's asking, since almost all HR tickets will be associated with a PID, is it possible to either 1, include a PID field on the request entry page, or 2, update the description of the payroll issue field name to say description of payroll issue, including associated PID, or something to that effect? That might reduce the number of tickets that are bounced back for PID confirmation purposes.
So we talked about putting the PID as a data field, and because it isn't going to be validated, it didn't really buy us a lot. I certainly can see the pros and cons. There are enough of these where PID is not applicable, such as positions, fund swaps on positions, and so forth. So I think this will be one where we're going to have to wait and see. If it turns out that this would probably be a good benefit, we can certainly go back and add that as a data field. But thank you.
Okay, Christina's asking, is it okay to do multiple add to carts in quotes with different employees? The example was 2 questions on the same person, right?
Yes, we would prefer you don't. We really would like tickets to be single person or single event type tickets. Typically what happens today is when you put a remedy ticket in and you've listed 3 people who have similar issues, and we're able to solve for 2 but not the 3rd, it holds up the whole ticket from moving forward. So in theory, you could do 3 separate ones, but if they are for different people, we would prefer you don't. That is more of a processing. It's certainly not policy, or I would say it's procedure.
Okay, that is it for now.
All right, I'm going to show one more cart that I think has a little bit more applicability. Let's say that 3 times fast. Oh, and one of the things I should be doing is I'm going to say that I have a problem with self-service. I can start to type this, and it's going to try to fill in, or it's going to just give me the results. We put a lot of what's called metadata or keywords into these service requests. So you should be able to find things. If you type EPAR, it's just going to show you the service requests that would be related to that. So I don't want the Connect Carolina student, and I don't know why the other one didn't come up. I'm so not sure. Let's try Connect Carolina and see if I get, remember I said earlier one wasn't showing up? Yeah, so the self-service one is broken. It's not here. Well, that's kind of disappointing. I don't know why it is not.
Because you're logged in.
Because I'm, oh, no, but you should have access to self-service. You
Okay.
it definitely, yes, that's true. I am logged in as you, but that's data changes, access. Well, we'll use access since it's similar. So let's say that you have a new employee who comes to you and says, I can't view my paycheck. They could go to self-service and enter it, a ticket on for themselves, or maybe they can't get into Connect Carolina at all. This would be the place where they would go, or you could do it on their behalf. If you were doing it on their behalf, if you keep your name as the requested for, you're going to get all the email notifications. If you want to be not play the middle person, then you should change the name to whomever it would be. So Chris was very kind, but I'm going to make it be for me. And here's a case where, again, we have a cart. So this person is having trouble with their onion. Do I have one? Well, they would have had to log in, so that's a bad example. I don't like my onion. And you can add that to cart. They can also say that cannot get into the benefits page. Where is it? Add to cart and so forth. So this would give you more of that one-stop shopping so that the person could layer up all their HR system access issues all into one. Once their cart was full, they could then submit the cart. And each one of these items will get processed independent of the other, but it is all related to that person. I want to point out there's a TIM. In bold, probably not big enough. This should only be used by the TIM administrators. So if you've got somebody who's having trouble getting into TIM, this is not the place to go. This is specific only to these 4 types of TIM transactions. If you do have an employee who's having trouble getting into TIM, you go back. Oh, sorry, we won't see it because it's under that self-service that seems to have disappeared. So there is this, under self-service, there is a TIM piece, which is not there. So now at this point, I want to see all of my requests. Well, I've been busy. So I can see that I have something that has 2 items. I can click into one, and I can scroll down to see what it was. It was the I don't like my onion. If it had been, if anything has happened to it, like it has been picked up and it's been assigned to somebody, then you would have more information in this box. But right now it's sitting out there waiting to be worked on. Oh, and you can update something. Whoa! Sorry. Okay, so now I can say, I could update this. Oh, okay. I'll keep my onion. You can close the ticket. And the person who gets this, the person who picks up this ticket to work would know that they could go ahead and close it. So the answer back to a question earlier is yes, you can update or add updates to a ticket, including adding an attachment with the dropping of a file there. You just couldn't use the drop file option when you were starting out. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, Teresa says, Ann, please remind users that the last one does not replace the ARC process.
That is absolutely true. Teresa's right. The systems access is I've been told I have access, but I can't get in. If you need access, you still must use the access request process. Nothing about that changes. ServiceNow is not replacing that now or anytime in the future.
Okay, currently no questions, but
We've got 4 minutes left.
I'll keep an eye on them. Any other useful tips?
So just a reminder, we will be posting this on the CC Info website. If you think of a question after this and you would like to follow up with me, please feel free to reach out to me. I am still learning. We are all still learning. If I don't know the answer, I will try things. I will see if I can find the information. But we are definitely all in the learning mode. I'm hoping this will be a relatively easy transition.
Okay, still no questions right now.
We'll hold it for another minute in case there's any questions. If you haven't signed up for one of the user acceptance testing sessions that we invited some people to, there's still time to enroll in one of them. The others are, 2 of them are happening tomorrow. I look forward to seeing those of you that are participating then. We have already found a few things, which was great, and that's what user acceptance testing is all about. All right, I think that with that, I'm going to call this a wrap. So thank you all for your time. Please share this with colleagues who weren't able to attend, and have a great rest of your day.